Hello everyone, welcome to Statecraft IS Academy. So let's get started with the current affairs. Our first topic of discussion is Pakke Tiger Reserve. So it is located in the Pakke Kisang district of Arunachal Pradesh. Remember, it is in Arunachal Pradesh. And this tiger reserve is also called Pakhoi Tiger Reserve. So recently in prelims there was a question wherein it was asked to in which state is the Pakhoi Tiger Reserve. So people were confused about it. So it's very important to remember the various the 51 tiger reserves that we have and the states where they are. Next, this Pakke Tiger Reserve, it also falls within the Eastern Himalaya biodiversity hotspot. So we all know there are 4 biodiversity hotspots in India. First it's the Himalayas, then the Western Ghats, then the Sundaland and the Indo-Burma region. So this tiger reserve lies in the Eastern Himalayan biodiversity hotspot. Also, this tiger reserve has won the Indian Biodiversity Award 2016 in the category of Conservation of Threatened Species for its hornbill nest adoption program. Also, it is bounded by Bareilly or the Kameng River in the west and north and by Pakke River in the east. And the other tiger reserves in Arunachal Pradesh are Namdapha Tiger Reserve and Kamlang Tiger Reserve. Here is a map of all the tiger reserves in the northeast area. So you can see in the Arunachal Pradesh there is Pakke Tiger Reserve, Kamlang and Namdapha Tiger Reserve. And in Assam there is Baksa, Manas, Orang, Nameri and Kaziranga Tiger Reserve. And in Mizoram there is Dampa Tiger Reserve. So remember, in the northeast area, only 3 states has tiger reserves, and remember all the tiger reserves as well. Next, we'll discuss about the fast radio burst, which is also called FRBs. So they are bright bursts of radio waves, that blaze for a few milliseconds before vanishing without a trace, and they are spotted in various and distinct parts of the universe. But their origins are still unknown and their appearance is highly unpredictable. It was first spotted in 2007. Also, it is estimated that magnetars can be a source for some of these fast radio bursts. So, this magnetar, it is a type of neutron star. So, the magnetic field of this star is very powerful. It can be 1,000 times stronger than a typical neutron star's magnetic field. Also, the formation of a neutron star occurs when the core of a massive star undergoes gravitational collapse at the end of its life. Next, we'll discuss about Fastly. So, Fastly, it is an American cloud computing service provider. So what cloud computing is? Cloud computing basically provides services over internet. So it is a pool of shared resources such as networks, servers, storage, applications and services that can be provided to a customer rather than the consumer managing them on their own, which is generally costly. So this Fastly, it is designed to help developers extend the core cloud infrastructure to the edge of the network, that making it closer to the users. Also, the Fastly Edge Cloud platform includes their content delivery network, image optimization, video and streaming, cloud security and load balancing services. So a content delivery network, it's an arrangement that allows the customer website to store data such as images and videos on various mirror servers across the country so that the data is closer to the users and thus shows up faster. Next, we'll discuss about vaccine nationalization. So this vaccine nationalization, it basically occurs when a country manages to secure doses of vaccine for its own citizens or residents before they are made available to any other country. This can be done through a pre-purchase agreement between the government and a vaccine manufacturer. So this actually has certain concerns because it is harmful for equitable access to vaccines. It also destroys a country's ability to deal with the pandemic. It further disadvantages countries who already have limited resources and bargaining power. Also, it deprives the population to the access to vital public health goods And taken to its extreme, it allocates vaccines to moderately at risk population in wealthy countries over the population at a higher risk in developing economies. So we should ensure equity. This equity actually entails both, that is affordability of vaccines and also the access opportunities for population across the world, irrespective of the geography and the geopolitics. So way forward can be the international institutions such as WHO should coordinate negotiations ahead of the pandemic to produce a framework for equitable access to vaccines during the public health crisis. Next, we'll talk about vaccine diplomacy. So first I'll say, talk about what diplomacy is. So it is basically an activity of managing relationship between the different countries. So this vaccine diplomacy, it also a branch of global health diplomacy in which a nation uses the developments or delivery of vaccines to strengthen ties with other nations. For example, India supplied hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir and paracetamol tablets as well as diagnostic kits, ventilators, masks, gloves and other medical supplies to a large number of countries to help them deal with the pandemic. Also, India has carried out capacity building and training workshops for neighboring countries. Next, we'll talk about the BEAD model. So, recently, the Maharashtra government has asked for the statewide implementation of the BEAD model of the crop insurance scheme, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So, under this model, the insurance company provides a cover of 110% of the premium collected. So, in case the compensation amounts exceeds the 110% mark, the state government would pay the bridge amount. And so, but if the compensation is less than the premium collected, the insurance company would keep 20% of the amount as handling charges and then reimburse the rest to the state government. So, talking about the significance, actually this BEAD, it's a district of Maharashtra and it is a drought prone district in Maharashtra. So the farmers have been repeatedly lost crops either due to failure of rains or due to heavy rains. So because of which the insurance companies have sustained losses when they were required to pay heavy amounts. And moreover, the state government has also found it difficult to get bids for the tenders to implement the scheme. So the Maharashtra government decided to modify the crop insurance guidelines for the district. So effects on the state government in the normal season, when the farmers report minimal losses, the state government will get back the money, so that can be used to fund this scheme. And when and in case of losses during the extreme weather conditions, they'll bear the financial liability. Next, we'll discuss about the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. So this scheme was launched in 2016 and it is a flagship scheme which ensures farm losses against the extreme weather events. And it is a central sector scheme which is implemented by the State Agriculture Department. And it covers food crops, oilseed crops, annual commercials, horticulture crops. The prescribed premium, this is an important fact for prelims, remember this. The premium in this case it is 2% for the kharif crops, 1.5% for rabi crops and 5% for commercial and horticulture crops. Also the scheme is voluntary, that is under the scheme it is 100% voluntary for the farmers. Earlier the scheme was compulsory for the loanee farmers. Also in the revamped scheme, a provision has been incorporated wherein if the states don't release their share before March 31 for the Kharif season and before September 30 for the Rabi season, they would not be allowed to participate in the scheme in the subsequent seasons. Also, the cabinet have decided to cap the centre's premium subsidy under the scheme for the premium rates up to 30% for unirrigated areas and 25% for the irrigated areas. Next, we'll talk about the election commissioner. So, former Uttar Pradesh Chief Secretary Anup Chandra Pandey has been appointed as the new election commissioner. Talking about the Election Commission, Article 324 of the Constitution talks about the Election Commission, and it provides for an election commission for the superintendence, direction and control of the preparation of electoral rolls for the conduct of elections to Parliament, state legislature and to the offices of President and Vice President. Remember these four things. No, Election Commission conducts elections to the Parliament, state legislatures, President and the Vice President office. Talking about the composition, the Election Commission shall consist of a Chief Election Commissioner and such number of election commissioners, if any, as the President from time to time fix. So it is on the discretion of the President. Next, they are appointed by the President itself, and the President may also appoint after consultation with the Election Commission such regional commissioners as he may consider necessary to assist the Election Commission. And the condition of services and tenure of the office of Election Commissioner and Regional Commissioners shall be as such the President may by rule determine. And that talking about the tenure, they can hold office for 6 years or till they attain the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. So talking about the removal, they can resign any time, and the Chief Election Commissioner can be removed from his office in the same manner and on the same ground as a judge of the Supreme Court. So in this case, the criteria is, there are two criteria basically, that is the proved incapacity and misbehavior. And a resolution and address is passed by both the House of the Parliament by a special majority. Next, the Constitution has not prescribed any qualification, or that is legal, educational or administrative or judicial qualification for the members of the Election Commission. Also, the Constitution has not debarred the retiring election commissioners from any further appointment by the government. Now, comparison between the Chief Election Commissioner and the election commissioners. So, Chief Election Commissioner is considered as the chairman of the election commissioner. However, he does not have any veto power. His powers are equal to the other election commissioners. And all the matters which are decided, they are decided by a majority amongst the members. Also, the Chief Election Commissioner and the two other election commissioners receives equal salary and allowances and other benefits. Next, we'll talk about the parliamentary privileges. So, CPI MP Binoy Vishwam has filed a breach of privilege motion against the Lakshadweep administrator Praful K. Patel for denying him the permission to visit the islands. And the MP has said that the right of a parliamentarian to move freely and meet the people is integral to the privilege of the position itself. So first we'll discuss what parliamentary privileges are. So there are certain rights and immunities which has been enjoyed by the members of the parliament either individually or collectively, so that they can effectively discharge their functions. So Article 5 of the Constitution of India talks about the privileges, and it includes certain privileges such as there is freedom of speech in the parliament. Also, no member of the parliament shall be liable to any proceedings in any court in respect of anything said or any vote given by him in the parliament or any community thereof. And no person shall be liable in respect of any publication under the authority of either the House of the Parliament of any report, paper, votes or the proceedings. Also, apart from the privileges specified in the Constitution, the Rule of Civil Procedure 1908 provides for freedom from arrest, detention of the members under the civil process during the continuation of the meeting of the House or of a committee, and 40 days before its commencement and the 40 days after its conclusion. So remember, these provisions are not mentioned or not specified in the Constitution, they are specified in the Code of Civil Procedure. Next, we'll talk about the motion against the breaches. So when any of these rights and immunities are disregarded, the offence is called a breach of privilege, and it is punishable under law of the Parliament. And a notice is moved in the form of a motion by any member of either house against those being held guilty of the breach of privilege. So talking about to which they are applicable, these privileges are applicable. So the constitution extends the parliamentary privileges to those persons who are entitled to speak or take part in any proceedings of the House of the Parliament or any of its communities. So this also includes the Attorney General of India. Remember, this is an important point for the prelims. The Attorney General also has parliamentary privileges. Next, the parliamentary privileges do not extend to the President, who is an integral part of the Parliament. So it does not extend to the President, while President already has some privilege which is mentioned in the Article 361 of the Constitution. Next, we'll talk about the role of the Speaker and the Rajya Sabha chairperson. So the Speaker and the Rajya Sabha chairperson is the first level scrutiny of a privilege motion. They decide on the privilege motion himself or herself, or refer it to a privilege committee of the Parliament, and then give assent under the relevant rules. So all for today, guys. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.